The morning dawned as grey and leaden as her spirits. There was a fine sprinkling of snow on the ground, and the clouds above the square Norman tower of St. Anne's beside the vicarage were swollen and black with the threat of more to come. The vicarage emulated the style of a country house on a small scale. The public rooms were on the ground floor, with the drawing room to one side of the hallway and the dining room on the other. The parlour, which had been on the first floor, had been redesigned by Henry into a master bedroom for himself. Henrietta often wondered where her brother had found the money to carry out the expensive improvements, from the rich rugs on the polished floors to the removal of the ivy which had formerly clung to the mellow brickwork of the Queen Anne house. "We live on the grand scale, but in miniature," Henry would say to visitors, with a deprecatory wave of his plump hands. Henrietta sat down at the pianoforte in the drawing-room to play some sonatas to calm her jangled nerves. She was so intent on the music that she did not hear a visitor being announced, and it was only when a discreet cough from the housekeeper penetrated her thoughts that she gave a start and turned round. There stood Beau Reckford, impeccable in morning dress, from his blue swallowtail coat of Bath superfine to his glossy hessians, giving her a courtly bow. Henrietta was wearing her oldest dress of grey kerseymere wool, and she blushed painfully as she got to her feet. "I am sure my brother will be down directly," she stammered. The beau nodded and stood for a minute, wondering if she were ever going to ask him to sit down. Custom dictated that he should make calls on all the ladies he had danced with the night before, and he had hoped that the visit to Henrietta would at least prove to be an amusing interlude, but the girl seemed to be painfully awkward and shy. "Aren't you going to ask me to sit down?" he asked in his pleasant husky voice. "Please do, sit, I mean," said poor Henrietta, looking at him as if he had risen from the pit. "I think we are going to have a heavy fall of snow, do not you?" said Lord Beckford, stretching his long legs out in front of him. "What? Oh, yes. Snow, yes. Lots, I suppose," replied Henrietta faintly, knowing that she sounded hen-witted but unable to gain any sort of composure. "Well, that disposes of the weather," said his lordship. "Now, we shall discuss your brother's health. He did not have an apoplexy, I trust?" Henrietta suddenly smiled and sat down. "No, of course not. He was much improved when he reached the fresh air. Fresh air is very beneficial to his complaint." The tawny eyes surveyed her with a mocking look. "It is the first time I've heard of fresh air curing anyone suffering from Lady Belding's wrath." A delighted smile lit up Henrietta's face. "How on earth did you—" she began. "I noticed the little byplay," he drawled. "Alice goes to her mother and whispers fiercely. Lady Belding goes to your brother and whispers fiercely, and your brother is suddenly smitten with some strange disease. If you will forgive me for speaking so freely, I assure you I did not enjoy the ball after you left." Henrietta's large eyes shone with a gleam of mischief. "Thank you for the pretty compliment, my lord. The sudden loss of your company quite devastated me myself, I must admit." The beau, who had expected her to simper, looked at her in some surprise. He was not used to having his gallantries neatly returned, especially by country misses. He leaned forward and said with mock intensity, "I am glad my feelings are reciprocated, Miss Sandford. May I kiss your hand?" He dropped a light kiss on her wrist and glanced up at her from under his lashes. Now, how would Miss Sandford of the vicarage cope with that? Henrietta's heart had given a painful lurch, but not by one flicker would she betray to this heartbreaker the strength of her feeling for him. She held her wrist to her cheek and looked at him soulfully. "I may never wash this poor hand again," she said.